Hi everybody and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video and gameplay. Today I have a super fun deck. It's called Over Easy. This is a Katarina and Anivia deck. And it's actually super fun to play, but it's one of the hardest decks I've ever constructed to play correctly, and it's very easy to make mistakes. And kind of the reason why I wanted to create a deck with Anivia was because one, she was buffed 2 patches ago. And two, the main deck that Anivia is used in is the Anivia Braum control deck. And there's a lot of people that play it. And it has a very high win rate. But my kind of theory about that deck is that it is overplayed and oversaturated. And because of that, it does have a very high win rate, but there could potentially be other Anivia decks that are just as good. And so I wanted to create an Anivia deck that could possibly be good as well. Maybe not as good as the Braum Anivia, but there are other decks that Anivia could work in that aren't used at the moment. So, like I said, we paired her with Katarina. And the reason why I did Katarina as the secondary champion was because late game, we can attack more than once. And the reason why that's good is because Anivia's ability is before she levels up, she will deal 1 to the enemy nexus and 1 to all enemies. And after she levels up, she'll deal 2 to the enemy nexus and 2 to all enemies. And so it's really easy to get a lot of damage onto the enemy nexus and onto units late game when we're attacking multiple times with Anivia and with Katarina. And the way that this also works is, well, a problem I've seen in playing Anivia is that she's blocked and she can't get past the enemy units blocking her. She still does damage to the nexus, but you can put up chump blockers to block Anivia and prevent her from dealing damage. And so the way I wanted to get around this was putting in a lot of overwhelm units. And so we are running a full set of Might, we're running a full set of Kato the Arm, and a full set of Battering Ram. All these cards have overwhelm, so they can't be chump blocked by other units when Anivia's Storm comes through and kills them, and so they're still going to deal damage to the enemy nexus. And then on top of that, we have a couple other kind of spells at our disposal, like Transfusion, to buff up our units, and Noxian Guillotine and Whirling Death. Noxian Guillotine is super good in this deck because of all of the damage that you can do with Anivia. Like I said, she can be played earlier, and so she can deal damage to units who don't even block. If you attack with Anivia, you can deal damage to all of the units, and once they're damaged, it can set up a really easy Noxian Guillotine. So Noxian Guillotine is a super good addition to this deck. We're also running 2 Whirling Death, which synergizes really well with Katarina. If there is any threat of taking out Katarina, you can use a Whirling Death to strike an enemy before you are struck, recalling her and also leveling her up. A couple other notable cards in this deck are the Trifarian Assessor, who we can use to get more card draw with our buffed units, such as Kato the Arm and the Battering Ram. And we have also 2 Culling Strike, which we can use to get rid of smaller champions such as Braum or Maokai or early Nautilus if they decide to play it, or Swain. We can get rid of all of those champions with Culling Strike, as well as some annoying early game units. So that's about it for this deck. You should try it out. It's super fun. Like I said, it is really hard to play correctly, and it's easy to make mistakes. So there's definitely a learning curve, but it's a super rewarding deck, and it's super fun to play. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Alright, so we're going against the Vlad Sejuani deck. And our opening hand is pretty bad here. I don't really want any of these cards. I prefer to have Katarina later in the game, and Culling Strike isn't of too much use because he's got big champions, and I don't really want it early on either. My opening hand, even after the mulligan, was pretty bad, and I fortunately drew a Crimson Disciple that I could play round 2. It's also fortunate that I started with the attack token, so I can play the Crimson Disciple here, and he is going to attack with his Ruthless Raider and not his Omen Hawk, so he doesn't take damage. I'm okay trading into the Ruthless Raider though, so to prevent the Sejuani level up just a little bit. I don't want her getting an early level up and being able to destroy me when the Vlad also levels up and does damage to my Nexus, so I'm okay with that. Alright, he got kind of lucky and top decked an Avaros and Trapper. I'm also okay trading my unit into that just to get rid of it. Now we know we're going to be dealing with an Enraged Yeti in the future. And my hand is looking pretty bad, to be honest. I was hoping to draw some more early game units, but I didn't. I don't want to really play the Trifarian Assessor because I don't have any units with 5 power on the board, and the draw effect won't do me much good. There's an argument to play it though, to prevent some damage here, maybe take out the Crimson Disciple, but I ultimately decide not to. And I get somewhat lucky here with my draw and got Kato the Arm in play, and he plays his own Ember Maiden. So now it's kind of looking like I might should have played the Trifarian Assessor to get rid of the Crimson Disciple. Because now it's going to be dealing extra damage to my Nexus. He kills his own Omen Hawks though, so I guess it at least somewhat alleviates the pain from the Ember Maiden. Thought about placing the Trifarian Assassin. Remember that Kato had 0 power because of Sejuani, so we can't play him now. And I'm okay also getting rid of the Ember Maiden with Anivia here. I don't want to get any more damage to my Nexus from the Crimson Disciple and the Ember Maiden working together, so I'm okay with killing the Ember Maiden. And I've got a Transfusion backup, fortunately, to also mitigate the Elixir of Iron that he just used, and hopefully he doesn't have another one. He's running really low on cards now. He's only got 2 left. He's kind of reckless in his use of cards. And I have 5 left, so I'm in a pretty good state, although I don't have a lot of good cards to use. I've also got this Harsh Winds backup that I can use when I attack, so I'm somewhat protected.
Snow, wind,
and I also have Noxian Guillotine here that I can use to clear up the board if I attack with Anivia, so I'm incentivized to attack with her in order to damage Sejuani. And he, like I said, doesn't have a lot of cards. I was kind of confused by him playing this card because he would have done damage to my Nexus. He was probably just worried about not having a lot of cards in hand, so he wanted to produce another card. So I got that out of him, and he plays his Enraged Yeti. And I wanted to get rid of Sejuani as fast as possible, so I used Noxian Guillotine this round to clear it. He doesn't have any way to save it. He's only got 1 card in hand and 1 card on the board. My board state is looking pretty good at this point because of my hand, and he plays his last card, the Tavern Keeper. Now, it's nice that he didn't block with his Sejuani because I've got my Harsh Winds for this round that I can use. Once again, he's only got 1 card in hand, so he doesn't have a lot of playmaking potential at the moment.
I have the name. I need the reputation.
And we just kind of wait for him to end his turn here. He takes a long time, even though he doesn't have any cards left, and I don't really need to play any cards here. Alright, it would have been really nice if we'd have top decked our other Noxian Guillotine, but we didn't.
What time is it?
And we play Kato the Arm here, and we are going to play our Trifarian Assessor and get some more card draw. There was a consideration to play Reckoning right now. It's round 9, so Anivia would have died, but she would have resurrected at the beginning of next turn. and they wouldn't have been able to remove her, and I would have killed all of his units. But the Enraged Yeti, I ultimately decided to play the kind of long game and the Trifarian Assessor and drew another card. And I don't really want to attack here because he can block into all of my units and kill them. So because I have the better hand state, I decide to end the round and not attack this time. And Anivia levels up.
Eternal winter.
I'd never keep my guests waiting.
Alright, I play a bigger body here, just to be able to block some of his bigger units.
Let's take this outside. I apologize to your parents.
This will be quick.
And once again, he doesn't have any cards in his hand. He's going to get one from the Crimson Curator here with the Vlad ability. Vlad levels up. He doesn't know that I have a Katarina in my hand that I can play right after this attack phase is over, because Vlad will survive with 1 health, and I can play the Katarina and get a Blade's Edge to be able to finish off the Vlad.
Let the bloodshed begin.
But the last card in his hand is a Crimson Awakener, so he ends up killing his Vlad anyway. And I kill his Tavern Keeper with my Blade's Edge. And now is the point we can kind of see the potential of Anivia and Katarina together, and kind of their ability to finish up games and clean boards.
A new era begins.
So I don't draw units, so an attack here is pretty obvious. We are just going to attack.
What's up?
And there's only one place that he can put his Enraged Yeti that he will survive, so he places it over the Omen Hawk. He doesn't know that I have a Might in my hand that I can use to buff up the Omen Hawk. And we're pretty safe to do anything here unless he top decked a very lucky card. I can't really see him if he ran a Harsh Winds for some reason in this deck, or a Fury of the North. He could have played that at this point, but he didn't. So we're able to take out all of his units and level up Katarina at the same time.
No one gets in my way.
And at this point the game is pretty much over, because we can play Katarina again, get the rally effect, and get an extra 4 damage with our battering ram that we've played. And he has no way to stop it, so he's forced to surrender. So that's a look at this gameplay. It's pretty fun, so you should try it out. Thanks for watching.